I'm going to have my coffee. Yeah.
Then we'll begin. So I learnt this method with the grid. I personally didn't like to use grids that you put over a picture and then have an enlarged grid on a canvas or piece of paper, because I didn't really understand them. I didn't really get the maths of trying to do that. So in the past I've used dividers, which are quite useful, but again, I'm not very good at operating them. I don't seem to get the measurements very well. And a couple of years ago, I was taught this other method of a grid that I find really useful. You can only, as far as I know, there's probably another way, you can only do it on a one-to-one, so I can only make a picture the same size as the original image. It has saved me a lot of time, because usually I do freehand and I usually draw things wrong over and over again, keep rubbing them out until I eventually get what I want. But using this way I found very useful, and I've called it a cheats grid. I think there's still drawing skill involved. I don't think it's a complete cheat, but it is handy if you're in a hurry, and especially if you want to maybe concentrate more on the painting rather than the drawing. Have you all seen the, I think it was sent out, wasn't it, an attachment with the grid? Have you all seen that?
You had the grid? No,
I haven't seen it, no.
Okay, no, that's fine, because I'm going to go through it anyway.
Okay.
But if it gets too long-winded, people would rather I skipped on to the next bit, I can do that. But if I outline the basics of this, I think it's really useful.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm going to turn my computer around, so you'll probably just see the back of my head or my ear, or
oh, don't worry.
hopefully my hands. Okay, so I'm just going to spin you around.
Yep. Okay.
There you are.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've got here is I printed out a picture. It's just off the computer. It's nothing special or personal. It's just I typed in portraits of women or something along those lines, black and white. And it should stop wobbling in a minute. I printed it out and I made it small enough so it fitted on roughly about half an A4, a little bit bigger. And for this method, it has to be smaller than the paper you're drawing on, because you're going to take lines over onto the edge to make your grid on both sides and top and bottom. So you will eventually join these lines together, and from that grid you will be able to draw a picture. Now this is one I made earlier. Can you see that? It's a bit bright, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Is it too bright?
A little bit. You can see. You can't see any lines of the grid. You can just see the image. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yes, the lines of the grid are pretty much rubbed off.
Oh, right. Okay.
You can see them around the edges. And so I think the best thing is if I just go ahead and start doing it. But we're aiming for eventually, this will be roughly the final picture, which is done with coloured pens.
Right.
Okay, I'll just put that down.
That's clever. Do you have an image? You do a grid over it with using a ruler.
And this part, it's really good to have a sharp pencil. The sharper your pencil, the more accurate your picture will be. Also, I'm a bit slapdash. I don't always tend to make sure my lines are straight. It's just to give me an idea of placement. But if you wanted super accurate, make sure your lines are parallel and straight, very sharp pencil. I've got a mechanical pencil today, which I like to use, but the only thing with these is they tend to slightly engrave into the paper. So you just need to use them quite lightly. And also they're not all that easy to rub out. So just like a sharpened HB will work just as well. And it'll just be slightly less accurate if you want millimeter perfect, but I don't. So what I'm going to do first of all, I have taped my image onto the paper. I'm going to mark the edges of the image just simply by making just marks along the edge. It doesn't have to be straight, just kind of to show where they are. And when you take it off, you can just draw the lines in properly. And what I do for this grid is I mark the key points on the face. So I am going to mark, first of all, where the front edge of her nose is. It doesn't matter where you start, it just gives you an idea. So I'm going to go above and below the picture, draw the line all the way along, and that just marks the front of her nose. And I write on my lines because otherwise I get myself in a complete muddle. Not everyone has to, but for me, I need to do this. So I'm just going to put front nose. And then another vertical line. I really like to draw in the iris of the eye, because if you get the eyes right, the rest of the face tends to, you can get away with a bit more, but the eyes need to be really right if you can. So I'm doing the edges of the pupil, sorry, the iris. Again, just going to label it. And you can just about make out the inside of it here, but it gets lost in darkness in the shadow, and you can take advantage of that because basically you can cover up any mistakes using heavier shadow. If you're not sure of something, not happy with something, well, this is me, what I do is I'll scribble over it so you can't see it. So you can hide a multitude of sins in the shadows. So again, iris, I'm going to put inner. Probably don't really need to label it so pedantically, but this is just the way I do it. And again, is anyone actually going to be doing this alongside me?
I'm just taking notes and
okay, that's fine. It's just I know how whether to do it slowly and work alongside people, or whether to just do a quick demonstration and move forward.
I'm okay with quick, but what does Flora think?
Yeah.
Do you? They're asking. What do you think? Do you want Clancy to go slowly, or do you want to do it as you're not trying to do it for yourself? No, so just see you're fine.
I'm fine.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, this can be applied to any picture you want. It doesn't have to be a face, obviously. I personally have only tried it with faces, but I should think you could do this with animals, or not sure about landscapes, but maybe. And it just, I think it's handy and worth learning. It does take a bit of time, but all the methods I use do take time. So if I go to horizontal now, I'm going to mark the lower level of this eye. And again, I'm going to put lower level. And you can mark which eye it is if you want to. I'm going to mark the tip of her nose. So that's the base of her nose, really. Her chin. I'm starting with the bigger structures, and I will go on to do more detailed lines through as well. The more lines you do, the more accurate it will be, but it's easier to get more muddled. So that's her chin. I'm going to do the top of this part of her lip, the bow of her lip on this side. So that went through there. So I'm going to write on there lip bow. You can use whatever words you like to help you remember. And yeah, I'm going to do her bottom lip. Back to vertical, I'm going to do the side of her nose. My pen broke, so pencil just broke. There we are. Nose.
Clancy,
Yes.
I missed the very start. Could you
Okay.
please say what you're doing, because I can't quite see the lines?
Yes, absolutely. What I have done is I've printed out a picture of someone's face, but it could be of anything. And I have made sure it's smaller than the paper I'm drawing onto, because I need to make lines that go from top to bottom and side to side. This will make a grid of where her key points are. So I started with her iris. You can do as many or as few lines as you like. The more you do, the more accurate it will be, but the easier it is to get muddled.
Brilliant. So the grid will go onto the page that you're going to draw on.
That's right.
I get it. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. All right. So I also label my lines max because I do tend to get muddled up. I've seen other people do it without having to label it, but for me, I just find this helps.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I could see her, where I've drawn the outside of her nose, it's almost in line with the pupil. I might put a little line just in the top, just as a reminder for me, because it's your picture, so you can do anything you want. But generally, it's very useful to draw the lines all the way across to make that grid that will go underneath this. So I'm also going to draw the outside of her iris. I keep saying pupil instead of iris, I'm sorry. And I will mark in the corner of her eye, even though it's fairly close, just it makes life easier, I think. And it just will help you guide where you're going. So I'm just going to put corner eye. The problem with pencil is it's really, really hard to see when you're filming. But it needs to be rubbed out, so it has to be pencil. So now I'm doing the corner of the mouth. The other thing is, Max, is to mark the edges round the picture. So when you've got your picture on, just draw along the edges, just mark them. It helps you see where your borders are is all. So I'm just going to put in corner of the mouth. So I think vertically, actually I'm going to put in this part of the eye because it's a slightly awkward bit. It wouldn't be how you'd naturally think of an eye going. So I will put this in because it curves right round almost vertically, the eye on this side. So I am just, although it's perhaps overkill, I'm just going to stick that on. And you can probably see my lines aren't straight either, because I am slapdash outer corner. I'm going to mark the front of her mouth. Again, it's at a funny angle that you wouldn't necessarily expect, and because her face is at such a slant, things don't look to me how you might expect them to be, which is why the grid is so useful. So I'm doing the front of her mouth now, and lip. And then horizontally, I need to mark her eyes more. I'm also going to mark the top of the nostril. Again, it's at quite a slant. I'm going to put the base of the iris in. On that one. The level of the lid, again, it gets lost in shadow, so you can sort of get away with not being so accurate, but it just gives you a good idea of where things are. So I'm going to put eyelid. And that's what actually also, luckily, given me the corner of the other eye at that level. So I'm going to put eye corner on this side. And I'm going to mark the base of the iris on this side, because what I like to have is all four sides of the iris. Again, that really helps with your image. It'll make it look like the person, the one thing to get the eyes right. And then the last one, I think, is where that final eyelid is. So I think I'm happy with all the lines I've got. I've got enough there to do a fairly accurate drawing, I feel. And I will always work with the image next to me as well. Always keep referring to the image. And it's quite useful because it's got those lines on it. And if you need to go back, you can, if you're not sure, you haven't marked something, you can easily put it back in position. You can see where it lines up and where its edges are. So it's very easy to place it back and think, oh no, I'm not sure where that is, I want to see. So it shouldn't be a problem. Oh, unless it falls off. So I've got all my lines, which you can't see because it's too bright. I think I might do it with a pen just to show you, just to demonstrate, because I've got a picture I've already done using the grid, but I just can see you can't see the lines very well on here. So I'm going to get a pen. and just see if I can see if this pen works for a start. So I'm going to mark my edges first. No, that doesn't work. Just bear with me when I find a pen that works. Okay, and this keeps falling down, so I'm going to stick this up a bit. Right, so I'm just drawing the front edge, the back edge, still not very clear. I'll bring it in closer in a minute to see if that helps. Right, I'm just bringing you in to see if I can get it a little clearer. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that
that's
shows,
much better.
yeah.
That's much better. Yeah.
Okay, good. Sorry about that. So, did you see that where I was drawing the lines? Do you understand what I was doing before?
I do. Yes. Yeah.
Because it was a bit hard to see, wasn't it?
Yeah, I could understand it.
Yeah, the document was sent out with the grid on it of how to do it verbally. I know it's not the same, but having seen it and along with the document, maybe you'll be able to follow it.
Yeah, I can. So yeah.
You can. Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
So my first line, it's just a few millimeters in, and this is the outer corner of the eye. And then the outside of the iris, and the inside of the iris, and the front of the nose. So you can probably see you end up with quite a lot of lines, which is why it's useful to label them. This is the front of the lip. This is the other eye, the iris. No, sorry, I'm moving along to the outside of the nose. This is the outer iris. Back to the inner iris now. I can see where I am. The corner of the eye. So you're literally just linking the lines on each side that you've drawn. And then we've got the corner of the mouth. So that gives you your vertical lines. And then you go across horizontally. Got the eyelid of this eye on this side. The base of the iris on that upper eye. The eyelid on the lower eye. the base of the iris on this eye. So I've written lower level here, and I don't know what that means. Probably it's the lower level of the eye, where the lower lid is. Top of the nostril, I'm only going to draw across on this side. Some of them you don't need to go all the way across. Well, a lot of them you don't need to go all the way across, but I tried doing it without doing that before, and I got myself in a muddle, so I still generally draw all the way over. This is the base of the nose. The bow of the lip, the bottom lip, and the chin. So that all looks a bit complicated, but once you sort of see, for me, I'll start with the major structures. So the front of the nose is a big main area, and it's actually more or less straight, and you can see where it turns at the same level as the eyelid. So you've got 2 points there that will really help, and also the base of the nose and the front of the nose. So you just start drawing your structure. The outside of the nose goes pretty much straight up, and then when you get to the level of the eyelid, it starts to curve up into that eyebrow, and you just take it over, it goes all the way to the edge. So you've got your first structure, which is the nose. So that's given you a really good starting point. And the next thing I want to do is probably put the eyes in. So I've got all 4 sides of where the iris goes. So you just draw a circle within that. And again on the other side. Yeah, it's up here. Iris, iris. Yep. So again, I've used where I can see I've written the inner and outer iris, upper and lower iris, gives me a square, and I just draw a circle within that. So already I've got sort of 2 eyes and a nose, and I can see the outer corner of the eye is here, and it goes to about here. This is again, it's just by, this is more by looking, and you can just see it skims over the surface of the eye, gives you a bit of an eye shape. But on this bit, it's this funny vertical bit that then curves, which gives a bit of a droopy look to the eye at the moment. But it won't look droopy by the time you finish with it, because you can just adjust everything to look a bit more normal. And don't forget, you've got the line, the rim under your eye. Mark that in, and by the time you also put your shadows in, it'll look more normal, because it'll look very strange to start with. I'm going to draw the pupil in, which is again just a kind of a bit of an estimate. That tends to work, unlike my pen. And then this is the bottom of the lip here. Corner of the mouth is out here. So I'm just going to sort of make a curve up generally in that direction. I've got the bow of the lip. I can see from my grid it's about here. Again, it's just a case of I'm looking at the grid, I'm looking at the lines that have gone over on the original picture, and I can estimate what I'm seeing. I can see that this bit of the lip just comes above that section, and then it kind of curves up to the corner. Front lip is here. That's got, again, quite a steep curve. Quite a steep curve. The chin, base of the chin is here, and the outside of the face is here. So we need to connect these two. So it is steepish, and the cheek comes very close in to the nose and even closer into the mouth. I've got, this is the front of the mouth, this is the chin, this is the starting point. So I'm going to just estimate the line down there, which you just tidy up as you go. And when you're shading in, you can adjust your shadows in and out. But using the pen method, once you make a mark, you can't undo it. So try and be aware of where you're reserving white parts to keep as highlights. So on this lady, very much along her cheek, above her lip here and there, and the rims of her eyes have little highlights, and just a little bit in her top eyelid there. And it just, I actually tend to mark them out with a pencil where they're going to be to make sure I don't accidentally colour them in, because as I say, once you go over it, that's it. You can't really go back if you're using pen. So can you see from this how your drawing develops?
I can, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, people, if you get it, that's great. Like the top corner is here, just goes down about here, is the corner of the eye. And again, it's up to you how much you want to be accurate, how much you just want to sort of get an idea, and then you can, it gives you such a good baseline to work from, but you don't have to stick rigidly to it. But for me, it always surprises me like how far over the lips are, and often how steep an angle is. So that comes round, that's, you just come over a bit, and it goes along for a little bit and then curves back up. Sorry, you see that I made a mistake there. I was going down to my bottom edge instead of, this is where the chin is. And you just curve back up, and there's your edge again. So you can stop there. And obviously if I had done this in pencil, I would rub out all my mistakes. And then I would rub out all the grid lines. So that has given me the basis of the drawing, which I'm going to swap over for one I've already done. So if you want a mini break, have a couple of minutes while I just put this other picture up.
Yep, little break, everyone. I'm going to go and grab a coffee, I think.
Yeah, I'm going to heat my tea up, I think.
Hey, well done, Clancy. This is you're doing so well. You're very brave to be the first to do. Fabulous. There's really good, lots of good feedback on the side as well. Everyone's really enjoying it, and there are quite a few people doing along with you.
Okay, all right, okay. Well, this little break will give you time to catch up.
Did you say here's what I made earlier when you start again?
Say that again?
I said, will you say here's what I made earlier when you start again?
Yeah, of course.
And you can do an animal one. You can do an animal one for me when it's my turn.
Well, I don't see any reason why this couldn't be used on anything, really. So I'm just gonna. I'm just on the heater. I'm in my studio, which gets cold, but then if I put the heater on, it gets too hot. Here's one I made earlier, but again, it's in pencil, which I, of course, didn't realise wouldn't really show up, which is rather unfortunate. So what I might do on this as well is, because I used the grid and I've rubbed out the grid lines, what I might do is do the outlines in pen. It probably wouldn't look very good in the final image, but that doesn't matter because this is just a demo. So I'm going to heat my tea up. I'll be back. And probably the dog will come with me too. Hi, fella. I'm back with my tea. All right, is everyone all right to carry on?
I got tea.
There's someone missing. There's Tracy. Is it Tracy? Hello, Tracy. Right. I'm going to put my heater on as well. It's getting chilly.
It is cold today, isn't it? I'm quite
Yeah, it is.
snippy.
It's too hot in a minute, but I'll put it on. There we are. Makes the lights go dim, just like in the studio. The hot shake. Max, you there? Anyone who didn't?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. Anyone who wasn't there at the beginning, this is what we're aiming for, which was the same picture, the same grid method, and some colouring in, which we're going to do now. And again, that notes on that should have gone out to people, I think. So again, hopefully it'll make sense, a combination of the demo and the notes. This is the more fun bit. Once you've done the grid, worked out where everything goes, you can just have a lot of fun with this. Also, sometimes using the grid, I mark in the shadows. In the case of this image, they're actually really obvious because it's quite a high contrast image. So you can really see the big shadow under her lips, over her eyes, and then this side of her nose, under her nose. So I have marked in on here big shadows, which again are quite hard to see. So what I'm going to do now is, this is not something you would do on a picture you're working on. This is literally so you can see this more clearly. Okay, so I'll get my pen going again. Can you all see this picture? Okay.
It's good for me. Is it good for everyone else?
Just about. It's quite faint.
Just wondering. So I always work with the original image next to me, because then if you panic, then it's right there. You can see what you're doing. So I'm going to draw in the main structures with a pen. Again, purely for demonstration. This you would do in pencil because you will rub it out at the end. I'm marking in the highlights in her eyes. Again, just as a reminder for me to reserve that white space and not draw into it. What's going to do her cheek? And just at the bottom, actually, you can vaguely see where her neck and shoulder are. Well, they're almost lost in shadow as well. So I've drawn that so you can see a little bit better where I'm going. I won't draw the shadows in. You'll hopefully see them develop as I colour in. And I tend to start with a dark, cool colour for the shadows. And I like to, rather than using black, I like to use something like purple or a dark blue or a brown. And masking tape that works would be nice as well. Oh, there must be something on this board that's stopping it stick. I don't know quite what it is. Right, I'm just going to tilt this slightly. Sorry, I'll just put that back on. Whenever I move the computer, it does this. There we are. Okay. So I'm going to start by drawing in the big shadows. So above, let's see, I have to keep taking it off. Above this eye and above this eye, I'm going to start with the shadows, and I'll probably continue down, following the shadow along her cheek and round her lips. And also, of course, the background here is dark, so you can start colouring into the background as well, as you like. So I tend to use tightish swirls, partly to see where I'm going, and partly just to give a denser colouring into the shadows, make them darker. I'm scribbling, I'm just doing circles. You can do bigger continuous lines. And just more or less follow. It doesn't have to be fully within lines. You can let your pen stray outside a little bit. I think it looks a bit more interesting. I'm going to go into the pupil with some, I'm not going to make it fully dark yet because I prefer to build it up in layers. And the ring round the iris is dark. Over here is dark, and of course the background. Start colouring that in. So I always do the very darkest bits to start with, getting lighter and lighter, and my swirls get bigger and less dense as I go. I'm going to do the nostril too because that's very dark. Again, try not to colour it all in completely, which is tempting to do, but it's nice to see other colours through as they build up. Sid, Sid, Sid. Sorry, that's my dog. He likes to dig in the carpet. And I'm going on to the lips. Again, this is very dark, this area. And if you keep looking and look, there are subtle lights in there. I might sort of just draw an area just to show myself, not to sort of necessarily go into that bit or go too dark into that bit. So obviously, normally you would perhaps spend more time doing this if you felt you wanted to. And we've got the shadow coming down under her lip. So I'm going to make this dark as well. And there's some shadow coming under her eye. Corner. I'm actually going to switch colour, although I will almost certainly come back to the purple. Certainly I'll do more in the background. But I'm going to go to another darkish colour, like I'll probably go grey actually, which is fairly neutral. It'll show me again where the shadows are, that are maybe a little bit lighter, but I will also still use this colour where I've already drawn. So I'm going back into the shadows. The problem with this method is it does tend to get through pens quite a lot, so that one's run out. But they're not expensive, and I keep a certain supply of them. So again, I just keep looking back at the image, seeing where the shadows are. She's got a funny shaped shadow under her nose that goes down to her lip. And then actually also comes under her nostril and around the corner, the side of her nose. And also the tip of her nose is in shadow as well. So I'm just putting quite loosely grey colouring onto this, also going into where I've drawn on her nostril. Again, just kind of giving myself a map to follow really by putting these colours in. I'm going to leave a gap here because there's a light a bit. Follow the shapes of the shadows under her eye. It doesn't matter if you go over, doesn't matter if it's not 100% correct, because probably no one's going to know anyway, unless they've got the picture in front of them. Or if you're doing a portrait of a person who you know. Okay, just working back into the shadows that I've already coloured in with this grey, building the layers. Let it stray into the iris a bit. And into the lips. You could go a little bit into your lighter bits as well, because they're not completely light. would be nice to get this background nice and dark, and then these shadows darkish, so that the highlight really stands out. Quite often these pictures work well as fairly high contrast pictures. You can go as subtle as you want or as contrasty as you want. You know, it's all personal choice really. So it's quite therapeutic, just lots of scribbling, which is good fun. Probably I might put some blue in next. I mentioned in the notes that you can very much change the picture, the mood of the picture, by the colours you use. And unfortunately, I don't know where I've put it, but I did a picture called Sick, which was of a person looking a bit desolate, and the idea was that they were unwell. And I did the picture in yellow and grey, which to me was sort of sickish colours. Again, I suppose if you want something to look a bit sad, you might use bluish colours. It can really vary. The majority I do a mixture of all different colours, but sometimes it is nice to do something just in blue or just in black and white. It can be as you prefer and as you choose. That's my tea. And so going in with the blue, I'm going to start up in the shadows again. You continue layering those up. Again, I'm trying not to go into the rim of the eye because that's something that will stay white-ish until the end, when I might put lighter colours in there. I'm going into the pupil. I'm going around the edge of the iris a bit. Down main shadows again. Back up to the eyebrow, and the big shadows around this other eye. Also, because I'm working vertically here, quite often if you're using colouring pens, it's probably better to work on a flat surface, because obviously the pen runs better when it's pointing down with the help of gravity. Okay, into the top lip. I'll put a bit along here, put the shadow down here. It's very dark in the middle of the lips as well. Around, following the line of the lip and into the shadow underneath the lips. And the background. Again, you can be quite loose as you get closer into your face. Just be a little more careful. But this is also your opportunity, if you feel your face shape isn't quite right, you can work into that shape. Just give yourself little guidelines. Last bit into the neck. So this is quite bluey at the moment, so I think I'll probably go in with a brown now. Again, keeping it darkish at the moment. I keep the lights for the end for the highlights. I think I mentioned darker and cooler colours are better for the shadows, as it pushes them back, whereas the lighter, warmer colours tend to bring the highlights in the areas you want forward. So working into the shadow, once again, building those layers. As scribbly as you like. You can take your pen on and off, or you can use a continuous line. I tend to use swirls and scribbles, but you can do whatever you like. You can do zigzags, like that. Circles. You can make it look more arty with a continuous line. Again, this pen's running out. It could be because I'm working upright, or it could be just the pen's running out. This is a slightly darker brown actually, but that's fine, doesn't really matter. And smaller scribbles in your more detailed bits. And don't draw into your highlights. The bigger and looser your scribbles, obviously the less dark it'll be, it's less dense. And this is nice and easy because it's easy just to put your pen down, walk away, have a break. Nothing's going to get ruined if you leave it. You're not waiting for paint to dry. If I'm doing a drizzle painting or intending to, I quite often will start with one of these, quite often in black and white, and then this will be in the sketchbook, I'll go on and do a coloured version, and then I'll go on and do the drizzle painting. So I've mapped it out mostly beforehand so I know where I'm going. I like to do a build-up. Any painting I'm doing, I like to do a drawing first. Could be in charcoal or pencil, or this kind of method, just so I can make my mistakes before I do the final thing. It's not foolproof, but it helps. So I guess you could see how this is building up. I think let's see if I've got my magenta here. That's always quite a nice one. Again, you can warm it up or cool it down as you like. I quite often use orange. I didn't in this one, but if you want to warm something up, that works really well. Colours like using an orange. And so exactly the same. Back into the shadows, the darkest shadows. Sort of let your pen stray a bit now, going over the edges a bit, because the edges of the shadows aren't sharp. on this picture. For the most part, they're a little bit fuzzily, and so there's no problem with letting your pen wander over the edge. I'm not going to do too much magenta in the eyes because she'll look like an albino rabbit. I'll probably do something more of an eye, a little bit more of an eye colour in the iris, like blue or green or brown. But I will probably do a little bit more magenta into the lips. Again, you don't have to. Anything can be any colour. I'm just going to let a little bit of the magenta wander into some of the less bright highlights. And again, I'm sort of widening my shadow now, letting the pen stray out a bit more, because on this side of the picture, it's generally darker on this side than it is on this side, but there still are lighter areas within the shadow. So having built up the darker shadows, I can start to let my pen wander into the lighter shadows, and just start building those up a little bit as well now. So it starts to look less like a contrasty picture, and try and get a little bit more of the subtle changes in. And plenty of magenta into this one. Just bringing in some of the more subtle shadows, some around her mouth. Again, it's just a case of looking at your reference image, seeing where some of those shadows are coming in, down her chin. I've been missing that a bit. And you can always go back in with a darker pen, which I need to here because I missed this a bit. So you can start darkening. You can use a different dark colour or the ones you've been using. I'm going to take that highlight in a bit smaller because it's very faint on the actual photograph. And what I'm also going to do now is, very often the top of the eye is in shadow. So I'm going to start doing a few loose lines down into the whites of the eye. And just along the edge. Again, change shapes of things you're not quite happy with. This is quite a strong dark though, so I need to be careful. And again, background, or you can just leave the background white. It's entirely up to you. I like this one being dark because it gives the lovely contrast on this very gorgeous shape that's coming down here. Again, normally I would do this quite a lot more dense to get a lovely dark background. Right, I'm going to go with a pink now, see if it warms up a little bit. I'm going to do into the whites of the eye. There are subtle shadows in there that follow the curve almost of the eyeball. And it actually gets quite darkish on the inner eye there. Again, not too much pink in the eye. But you'll find each colour you add makes quite a difference each time and can really change the character of the picture, which is quite fun because you're never quite sure what you're going to get next. I'm letting this pink stray quite a lot and quite loose scribbles into this area. And again, the lips, plenty of pink, if you like, on the lips. Into the shadow. And my arm's getting very tired now because I would normally work on this flat.
It looks fabulous.
Thank you. So it's a case of sort of carrying on like that, really. What I sort of will do in a second, although I don't think it'll show up very well, is going with the lighter colours like some yellows perhaps, and even back with the grey again. Certainly I want to darken down this side of the face and the forehead a bit. And by doing that, you can emphasize the highlights more. So leaving most of this white and this little bit here white over the lip, and then of course the highlights in the eyes. This needs darkening a little bit. Just keep working into it in your various layers, your various colours. Choosing how you want it to look, really. So do you want me to carry on? I'm not sure how well it'll show up. That's the only thing.
You have a very distinctive colour palette always, don't you, Clancy?
I think I probably do. I try and use as many colours as possible, usually when I'm doing these. I did limit it Sorry, I was just going to say I did limit it on this one because of it being a demo.
With you, we always, you know, you've got a very definite like style, haven't you? And you know, kind of signature, which I really like.
Thank you. Yes, it's a fun one to do, definitely. So, yes, I enjoy it. I always liked sort of scribble portraits, and I suppose I took it from there, really.
Has anybody else been attempting one as they've gone along? Oh, we're deathly silent. I just wondered if anyone had been doing one that they wanted to share. Their
That's what I did
progress.
earlier.
Wow, look at that. That's, you know, that.
So that's where I have taken some of the lines. I use lighter colours and looser, much looser scribbles, much wider, looser scribbles. It doesn't always work. Sometimes it's better to leave it more as a contrast. And I did give her kind of bluish eyes and reddish lips as well. But you know, if you want to give her black and green lips, that's fine.
I may have just missed it, but what did you say about going in to right into the edge?
I like to, as I work, let my lines loosen up and so that my pen strays over the edges a bit.
And bring the background up to the face.
Oh well, the reason is there's on the photograph there's such a nice contrast between the dark background and this white-ish highlight along her face. So I think it's kind of worthwhile getting a nice dark background to show that highlight, but you don't have to. I mean, it can be left on a white background, which I often do. But if there's a nice highlight, it's nice to have a dark contrast going with it.
Oh, yes, I see.
So does it all make sense? Was that
Yeah,
were
definitely.
people able to follow it?
Looks fabulous. Yes.
Thank you.
And also, just a bit of an aside, you know, it's also a way you can scale up really huge, isn't it?
Well, probably this
I'm in a meeting.
this grid method. I only know how to do it one-to-one. I don't know how to scale up any bigger. I know there is a completely different grid method that people do use to scale up. I've never attempted that myself. I tend to, if I'm doing a big picture, I tend to draw freehand, and maybe if I'm really stuck, use a ruler to sort of try and work things out. But I'm not a mathematician by any means, and I struggle a bit with that.
I always use a photocopier.
Well, yes, or there's that.
Very good.
If you were going huge, for instance, you could presumably do your measurements by 10 or by 5.
I think yes, but the standard grid, I'm not sure how you'd apply it to this one.
If you looked at your measurements in between, like the lines.
Yeah, I've never thought of it, but I suppose you could, yeah.
Yeah, so you could scale it right up, couldn't you?
Yeah. I will try it.
Or
I'll
even
give that
double it, you know?
Yeah, I'll give that a go. Why not? I'll give it
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, is there anyone who's been having a go that we could share, that wants to share what they've been doing? Tracy's sharing her big hand.
You can speak and say, I've tried.
I've just been listening.
That's fair enough, and so have I. You know, to be honest, I've been listening too, but you know, it's a brilliant way to draw. I just wondered if anybody had been having a go and might be brave enough to share, but don't worry if you haven't.
Not yet.
No, that's fine, and it's something you can look back at, refer to the notes, and have a go at in privacy. And then if you decide you like it, maybe have a go and share in the future if you're happy to do that.
It's going to be a really good method, that gridding, for drawing difficult angles.
I think it is. I learned it a couple of years ago from an artist called Mike Skidmore, and I love it because I can speed up my drawing if I want to, or I can have a go at freehand if I've got time. It depends. When I was doing the portrait course earlier this year, when we were doing the pop art pictures, I tried 3 methods. I tried freehand, using the dividers, and this method, and the results were all good. You know, they all worked okay, and it's just that I'd say the freehand one takes me longer, because I'm just always working back into it to try and get things right. So this is quite a good shortcut.
Excellent.
Does anyone have any questions at all?
Clancy, I found it very interesting. I feel I learnt a lot today.
Good.
Thank you so much.
Good. I mean, if anyone felt they couldn't follow it because I wasn't explaining properly, you know, I'm happy to go over any points again, or.
I think you were very clear, and it was very easy to follow. I'm definitely going to have a go, I think.
Brilliant.
I do too. I've made like notes and stuff. So.
Yeah, me too.
Good. Excellent. And it should be, you should have received in the emails, there should be notes on how to do it as well. So hopefully the combination of everything will help.
Thank you, Clancy. That was a brilliant first session. Absolutely
You're welcome.
marvellous. And
Thank you.
You are a wonderful teacher. You really are.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah, brilliant.
You are,
Yeah,
and and you've obviously done loads of prep, and I know that put in lots of preparatory work as well. So thank you so much for that. That's brilliant. One day, maybe we'll be able to have a face-to-face.
Yeah, that would be nice, wouldn't it?
All sat round a table.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, this has been perfect. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we'll put it up on Google Classroom as well for people to look back on, and for those who couldn't make it. But that's brilliant.
Yeah, and do look at the notes, because I think if the pictures are with it, you'll be able to see where we couldn't see the pencil lines on this. You'll be able to see what I was doing, hopefully.
Does anyone else have any questions or anything they'd like to say?
I have an irrelevant point.
Oh, yes, please.
Is anybody else doing the abstract?
Yes.
I cheated.
Yes, I am too.
I decided to go over a drawing instead of a photograph.
That's amazing. Wow. That's beautiful.
Oh, I can't see.
Oh, is it maybe because you're still on Spotlight? Let me cancel.
Oh, yeah, I can see it now.
Fabulous.
That is beautiful.
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you. It's just as it was a photograph and a portrait, and I happened to have brought it with me. I thought I would like to show it to Clancy.
Is that for warrants? Is that for warrants?
Yes.
Yeah, I haven't done it yet. My pack just came earlier.
Am I?
So did mine. I did it last night, though.
Sorry?
So did mine. I did it last night, though, with the paint.
Oh,
That's
right.
one of the other courses.
Oh, right, yeah. Looks cool.
Yeah, I'm going to have a go this weekend.
Yeah, same here.
Oh, I'd like to do that too.
Well, it looks brilliant. It looks like fun.
We haven't seen any of your art, Harriet.
I know. I'm sat here shaving wire and cable. Hold on.
Why? What are you doing with it?
It's for a carnival thing I'm making. It's for
Okay.
for jabs. But yeah, it's quite prickly. But yes, okay. So no more. If there's no more questions or anything, then we'll bid you farewell and say thank you very much once more.
You're very welcome. Nice to see you all.
Well done, Clancy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Clancy.
See you soon, I hope.
See you later. Bye.
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 I wouldn't have held mine up if I hadn't thought yours was better.
Oh, Max, I love yours. Bye-bye.
Bye.
This is the funny bit. Oh, Clancy's gone. I was going to ask her how she felt it went, but it obviously went very well. Right, see you later. Bye.
Good afternoon.